Jordy Ball has been ruled out for the season with an ACL tear that she suffered very early in her very first start at Nebraska when she landed awkwardly on her left leg. And she put out a Instagram announcing it earlier today, saying that it's going to cause me to support the red team in a different way than anticipated for the 2024 season. With a heart thankful for God's plan and timing, I will be redshirting this year and looking forward to a season of growth and learning from a different point of view. I'm thankful for the support of family, friends, coaches, and staff. I am truly blessed to have so many wonderful and loving people in my life. I'm not going anywhere. See you in 2025. Go Big Red. Red heart emoji, corn emoji. Well, it's part of the Instagram post.
I know. I'm not laughing
like
at the injury. I'm laughing at just us having to read it out loud. It always sounds funny.
It does.
It does.
Yeah, unfortunately, end of the season, just eerie how reminiscent this is of Aaron Rodgers. I mean, so much anticipation for the season. The fact that, they had sold out all of their season tickets. They're moving in more seats, temporary seats, to Bowlin Stadium to accommodate that. Expectations had never been higher, that you bring someone who, and while softball isn't at the same level of basketball, I mean, you're bringing maybe the Caitlin Clark of softball into your team.
John, think about it when we were doing preseason stuff, and we were not the only ones, where the expectations were a deep, deep run for this program because of her addition to the team. And obviously, that's out the window. Throw in on top of that extra seating capacity at the stadium. Obviously higher fan interest than ever before. Name, image, likeness stuff that she was involved in. Everything is now out the window.
Yeah, they had a softball fan day, last week, and it was, the lines were out the door. I mean, there are a lot of young girls in this area because she is a local product and now playing for the local team that, she's got her own kind of rock star following. Heck, she had one like that when she was at Oklahoma, even though she wasn't from Oklahoma originally. And now to have this all shut down, just 3+ innings into her first season in Lincoln. I mean, this is a huge blow, not just, from the standpoint of, the team probably won't achieve at the same level because you lose someone who is such a focal point. And in softball, unlike baseball where, a guy starts once a week, in softball, pitchers get run out all the time.
Yep.
And, they throw a lot, and you
can have an incredible impact just because of the raw tonnage of innings that you can play.
Absolutely, yeah. A pitcher has a big impact in both sports, but in softball, it's probably even larger just because the volume of innings that they throw as a percentage of the season is greater.
Yeah,
and with someone like this who was a 2-time All-American, a 2-time national champion, and like I said, I mean, she's, for better or for worse, the kind of the Caitlin Clark of her sport, or at least someone who has, similar impact and similar influence. And now, that's gone. Now, while she's still around and she can still, sign autographs and meet and greet, the real reason why people were excited for her isn't going to be there for a whole nother year.
Yeah.
And it's got to feel as a huge, huge letdown.
Also, I would say, folks, John, it's almost worse than if it were to happen, in the off season leading up to it. It's like the first game of the Scott Frost era coming to an end right after the kickoff versus Akron. And so you have all this buildup, and the season starts, she's out there, she's pitching, and she tears her knee immediately. And we talked about it a little bit last week after it happened. The bad part about it was we all kind of figured, I guess I won't speak for everybody. I figured this is not good and she's going to be done for the year. And that was the scary part. It's just like immediately you just kind of knew. And today the worst case scenario was founded.
So Jordy Ball out for the season with a torn ACL. The news wasn't all bad on the women's sports front around here. Did you see this? Did you hear about this? Nebraska's game against Iowa, the big upset on Sunday. 1.77 million viewers on Fox, the most watched women's college basketball game in Fox Sports history.
Wow. And it was the most watched Nebraska game ever, right? That they have had?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, it's the most watched Nebraska game that we know of. And I speculated earlier if it's the most watched basketball game of either gender. And then I realized, well, you go back to, the NCAA tournament. I know it's been 10 years since Nebraska was last there. And the tournament, how it's televised today, is different than it was when Nebraska was in its heyday, where the games, if they were on, were regional. But I'm guessing there were probably bigger audiences. But it's certainly the most watched basketball game of any kind featuring a Nebraska team in the last decade, I would think.
Yeah.
Regular season at the very least, because to my recollection, I don't think the Nebraska men have been on a over-the-air network.
Last time they were
in the regular season.
I can't believe I know this stat. It's been since 2002. They played Kansas at home. They made a bunch of threes and they lost. That game was on CBS. Otherwise, they have not been on an over-the-air network since.
Yeah, so huge numbers, and Nebraska getting the win. I know, obviously, Iowa could have been playing, Vanderbilt, and it would have drawn, because the draw was obviously Caitlin Clark and the chase for the record. But hey, you got to have a dance partner, and Nebraska was more than a willing dance partner. And then the way they came back, and you got a court storming, and you got, the enthusiasm there. I mean, people like to watch upsets. People who are casual fans who, are just tuning in because it's something to watch. If they weren't going to get the record, which is why I dare say most of those 1.7 million people were there to watch, then you got the next best thing, which was a comeback and an upset and a home celebration.
Yep.
So people do like to watch it, for upsets as well. I'm guessing not everybody in the audience, certainly the Nebraska fans in the audience, were not rooting for Caitlin Clark or rooting for Iowa. But again, the casual fans that were out there, they got the next best thing. They got to see, wow, all of a sudden she's not scoring and Nebraska's scoring and Nebraska's coming back. And
John, she entered the fourth quarter with a great, chance at setting the record.
Oh, yeah.
Given how high her point total was, but as we discussed a little bit yesterday, given that Iowa was also ahead by a lot, did they go into a bit of a prevent mode with her? And then, they end up losing the game, and she is, essentially not productive at all in that fourth quarter. And so, it ended up being kind of the perfect storm to get that kind of an audience. So not surprised, right? It was on Super Bowl Sunday, and it was early enough in the day that it was away from everything else. And it seemed like the biggest thing going at that time. I'm continually amazed at just the growth in audience that we have seen for the women's game in recent years, and that showed itself in the Final Four last year when she was there. It showed itself in the national championship, and now it continues to show itself in the regular season too.